Hello, everyone. Another episode of a conversation with Antoine. This time I talked to Emily Inkpen, and oh, she is so cool. This was my first time actually meeting her, and it went really well, I think. I thought my first episodes I would be talking to people that I knew, but I was like, you know what? Why not just throw myself into the deep end and started off meeting new people? But she's so cool. I look forward to getting to know her better, building a friendship because she is so nice to talk to. I love her accent. I love her accent. She's brilliant. And we talked again like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours after the episode was over. Um, hour and a half, hour and a half. I had work afterwards, so I had to zip away. But we would have talked longer, and I really hated ending the conversation. I really do because you guys missed out. We started to talk about different things, writing, religion, all the good stuff. So yeah, uh, I'm not going to talk about the content you didn't hear or see, or aren't going to hear or see. Let's just talk about what you are going to see. She talks about the Blood Road, the bomb, um, her audio drama. It's great. You should check it out. I've got the links on the website, the YouTube, and I've also got. I'm gonna put something on there on the podcast. You really can't post too much on there, so check out the video if you're listening to a podcast, and likes, shares, um, high ratings. I want to be able to, get viewers. So if you enjoyed it, please share it. If you didn't enjoy it, still share it. Say, yeah, he's novice, but it was okay. I don't know, something. Share it. Say nice things. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode.
I've got you now. I can
Can you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Woohoo!
Hi. Nice to
Hello.
meet you, Emily.
Very nice to meet you too.
Awesome. I was just listening to another one of your podcast interactions, More Than a Pair. Um, we
Oh,
were
that
talking,
that goes back.
yes, like 2018. You were talking about gaming.
Yes. Yep.
Um, are you still doing that, or is that, they said that's a long past time?
No, that was quite a long time. We just did one season of that and then sort of called it a day. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was really long distance. So she was working in Vancouver, my friend was working in Vancouver, and I was working in the UK. And yeah, there was just a lot going on in both of our lives. So we got a season out, and then we were like, nah, okay, we're good. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I was excited to hear that you're a gamer too, because it seems like we have a lot more in common than I thought we did, which is going to be
Oh
great for
yeah.
conversation because I love gaming. So eventually I'll segue to that. But I enjoyed listening to the bomb.
Oh yeah.
I have a lot of questions. I'm just curious
Okay.
because
Hold on
I
a second.
go ahead.
Are you getting any feedback? Because I've just realized I'm listening through my um, microphone, but I'm listening to it live. So is it going to be feeding back on my microphone?
I don't think so. I'm not hearing anything bad on my end, so I feel
Okay.
like hopefully that's not going to be an issue. But it seems pretty clear on my end. So I know
Yeah.
sometimes when you have like two microphones going, it's like absorbing it at the same time. It's like a little weird.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Cool. Sorry, just had to check.
no worries, you're good. So the bomb.
Yes.
I'm curious of the premise here because it seems like they're from Earth, and this is like 1,500 years in the future from I guess their spacecraft landing. Um,
It's that so they're from their planet, but 1500 years ago, the ancestors from Earth left Earth.
ah,
So it's like they've been on their planet for 1500 years. And before that, it was the planet was seeded 1,500 years ago from people from Earth. So they're not from Earth, but they kind of are. They're kind of like displaced people, because yes, they're humans and they're from Earth, but they've never been there. And so there's a lot of history and a lot of anxiety around that, because nobody's really sure what the ancestors meant for them to do and what they were supposed to do, whether they were supposed to do things differently to the ancestors, like the ancestors from Earth, or not. And sort of they've been given a lot of information to take with them to this new planet called the seed data. And it was basically this comprehensive record of everything, like every news article, book, video, like everything, all went with them, except any sort of instructions on how to travel through space. And basically anything that they needed to get back to Earth, that was erased. But everything else they had with them. So of course, then they're like, well, if that was erased, what if loads of other stuff was erased too? You know, there's this uncertainty around that origin. Yeah.
I like that, because there's so much potential with this story. I mean, you have so many stories you can tell. You can write a story about, you know, the first ship leaving Earth and landing there. You have all this history you can tell. I mean, we're going to be questioning the fate of Earth to begin with. Maybe there's no Earth left. Maybe we blew it up with another bomb.
That's a question. That is a question. It's like, well, you know, they're talking about the ancestors, and they're like, yeah, well, you know, the first thing we would have done is gone home. And they're like, yeah, if there was a home to go home to, we don't even know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think it's. I mean, I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Where's that? Because and I'm going to share the link on the podcast, and also I'm going to share a link in the YouTube information so that people can actually listen to it, because it's very entertaining, and I'm curious to see what the bomb, when it went off, that silence was like. I was unnerved, because I'm like it sounds like the beginning of like the first nuclear bomb going off, like this little still excitement from the scientists about how this is going to come out, that I'm just like, they don't know how big this bomb is. They don't know the impact of this bomb. Like, I'm scared for these people. Like, how massive is this bomb? Like, is it a nuclear bomb? Is it like a hydrogen bomb? Like, what's going on there?
It's way bigger than a nuclear bomb. Way bigger. I mean, it takes out a whole country. So I've got the map that I've drawn, and at some point in the near future, I'm going to release a website that's got all of the materials that go along with this audio drama, plus the sequel that's coming out soon, and everything. And in this map, you'll be able to see the size of the island that it hit, and it just takes out the entire island population. I think it's about 3.5 million people living there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's catastrophic. It is horrendous. Like, yeah, decisive. Nathaniel would say decisive. But yeah, that's big event.
It is, and I was even fascinated by the characters, because they there's a certain unexpected level of apathy when after the bomb went off. You know, I was expecting like a little bit, like some seemed a little bit horrified or like scared, but the one scientist, she didn't seem to really like have any kind of concern over the people or any kind of responsibility to the events. And I'm just like, you just dropped like at my time I'm thinking like a nuke, and you killed all these people, and you're just like, it's science. Like,
yeah, she Osa Srivastava, she's a really cool character, and she's definitely got a few screws loose. And yeah, she had like zero empathy whatsoever. For her, it was just a huge achievement in like the brief, basically, from the country that bought the bomb and the country that launched it was, we want you to design us the biggest bomb you can. And they didn't think that any side, basically they couldn't imagine a bomb that big. So they couldn't even imagine that something that horrific could happen. So when they briefed them and said, yeah, we want the biggest bomb you can make, they were just thinking big explosion. They weren't thinking taking out a country. So for her, taking that brief and saying, okay, they want us to make the biggest bomb ever, let's make a big bomb, let's make it let's push science. And that's what she's interested in. She's like, I'm going to push science and we're going to take it to places that have never been taken before. The fact that she's working on a bomb and it's going to destroy lives, that is a secondary concern to her. Her main concern is just, let's defy physics. You know? And it didn't defy physics, obviously, but it did do catastrophic things. And so she's just seeing that as, I did my job.
It was great. A great bomb, not exactly a good bomb, but a great bomb as far as the results. Now, I was kind of curious because it was talking about a civil war. So did you just mistakenly blow up both sides of the war?
So basically, the island of Rhone, which is the country that got blown up, was under long-term occupation by this bigger country. And for 12 years, this smaller country off the coast had just been fighting for their independence. Yeah. And the bigger country, Xenos, had just decided, you know what, we want to end this. We're going to drop one bomb. It's going to really mess them up and they'll leave us. They'll leave it, you know, they'll surrender. They'll stop this nonsense. Obviously they did drop the bomb and the nonsense did stop, but that was because there was no one left. And yeah, it was like for 12 years they'd been going on, but the civil war ending like that shifts the politics in that country really hard, which doesn't really come up too much in the future, because basically they then retreat into themselves and as a country do a lot of soul searching. And
after that, I can understand why. Yeah,
it's like this huge event. They sort of become very reclusive as an international power, and the government that dropped the bomb, which was a very nationalistic government, crumbles because they won the war, but they did it in such an absolute and horrendous way that they couldn't claim a victory on that because it was horrifying. So yes, they won the war, well done, but then they were all monsters. So then the parties that had been advocating against the war from the very beginning, suddenly they were growing in popularity. And then what we see is this opposite ideology coming out of that in that country. And then suddenly it becomes much more socialist and environmental, like this bomb wreaked havoc on the environment on this entire island. And then they become very environmentally aware, and the whole country just has an identity crisis basically, and does a U-turn after that event. So yeah.
Well, I tell you, I am really looking forward to seeing, the repercussions of this, because I can imagine they're going to get a lot of hate. When you were talking about the independence, I was thinking of like China and Hong Kong.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Kind of like situation where they're like, there's this argument there. And so I could kind of see like something like that happening. And then the entire world's just like, what did you just do?
Yeah, literally, what just happened? And obviously, like in the bomb, there's like the scene with Nathaniel and Tristan at the beginning where Tristan is asking Nathaniel, okay, so what is going to happen here? And Nathaniel says, well, if the explosion is big enough, we'll never have to drop another one.
Yeah.
Because it will make a big enough impression. And there is always this undercurrent. So yes, the bomb was bought from Dex Industries and from Nathaniel and Tristan and Osa, who designed it. But it was Xenos who launched it. It was Xenos who gave them brief. So technically Dex Island can be like, well, it wasn't us. We just delivered a brief. We just gave you the weapon that you asked for. Right. And it surpassed your expectations, but that's just because we designed it really well. And then Xenos obviously have this huge beef with Dex Island for the rest of forever, because they're like, well, we didn't know it was going to be that big. You had an idea how big it was going to be. You must have had an idea. how
Yeah.
big it was going to be, and you didn't tell us, and we went into this blind, and so it is your fault. And then Osa Srivastava, the doctor, in the future of Xenos, she becomes like the boogeyman. Like, she is infamous in that country as being the woman who designed the bomb that destroyed a country, you know. So she is a really unpopular figure in Xenosi history.
She's kind of like Albert Einstein and Hitler, like the one person, kind of like.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like there was a person in World War II, I think, Werner von Braun, famous rocket scientist, and designed missiles, big missiles, and they had a very detached attitude to what they were doing as well. And I took a bit of inspiration from him and put it sort of like into the Osa character. Yeah.
I was going to ask if that was what inspired you. Just answered my question there. So that's just wow. How much can you tell me about the Blood Road? Because I'm assuming that it's going to go into greater detail about all this stuff. But what can you tell me, like, what happens next? What are we going to be expecting as far as like is this going to be like is there a war? Is there like an arms race? Like, what are we? It's going to be a space race. I mean, because they want to go to space again. So what's happening here?
I'm going to say this is like a Game of Thrones thing. Like, the spaceships are coming in the same way as the Army of the Dead is coming. It's still coming. Yeah, it's still coming. It's still not quite there, but it's coming, you know, like all the way through Game of Thrones. The Army of the Dead is still walking to the wall, but it's not quite there yet. And yeah, the spaceships are definitely coming. They're not there yet. But I can't really, I can tell you what happens a bit about, because the audio dramas with the bomb, they are prequels to the novels. Yeah. And the novels start 11 years later. So a lot of ground has been covered up until then. And the reason for that is because the Blood Road trilogy isn't released yet, isn't published yet. Yeah. And if it gets taken up by a publisher, it might change quite a lot. You know, like publishing editors have a lot of, you know, things they want to play with. Maybe they're going to change things, they're going to cut characters and everything. And as a result, I didn't want to write anything that would happen afterwards, knowing that might change. So I went in the other direction. And so we're making the prequels, because then I can justify anything that happens, anything that might change in the Blood Road trilogy, I can make that work in relation to what's come before. And so, yeah, I've sort of mapped out a series at the moment where we've done the bomb. We've got the sequel, which is called The Hunt, and that's going into production like imminently. And I have got more episodes, like a season mapped out, whether or not they get made or not. Like, but this is just how my brain works. I have arcs, and you know, like,
that's great. That's a good idea. You should do that. That's perfect. Yeah.
it's like so yeah, I've got this series, and I've got a prequel short story as well to The Bomb, which is just a short story about Ren, one of the characters, and it's about his kidnap and torture, because, you know, you've got Nathaniel and Tristan and Devik and Osa, but at the same time you've got the kids, Barry and Isra and Ren, who are fighting a different war somewhere else, and their story, and they are actually the Blood Road trilogy is told from those three perspectives. So Barry and Isra and Ren. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. So you kind of you get a piece of who those characters are and the sort of story, and then you get this big event. Then you get to sort of like see how, you know, it's just, they kind of take it from there.
Yes. Well, it's. I mean, they came first. Okay. And it's really cool actually doing the audio dramas, because when I'm writing the books, and I'm still working on the third book now, but when I'm writing the books, you don't get a point of view from the adult side, from the Nathaniel, Tristan, Devik and Osa side. There's a couple of chapters, but you don't hear anything from them. So when I'm working on the audio drama, I get to really delve into their characters a lot, and play with their point of view and the things that they would say to each other about the kids, with the kids not being around, and get into the politics a bit more and get into their psyche and the way they work together as well, because you get hints of it in the trilogy of like the fact that they are long-term colleagues, not friends, but they've known each other a long time and they've been working together a long time and they have respect for each other, but they don't necessarily like each other that much. And working on the audio dramas, I can play a lot more with those relationships, which I find to be a lot of fun.
I can imagine so. And of course, you can always, you can evolve their relationships into other friendships or enemies throughout the story. And like that. Yeah. I really think this is going to be really cool. I love hearing this story. So you have yourself a fan right here. I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the final roll to come out. So I'm prepared to see what happens.
I'm really pleased you enjoyed it. That's like music to my ears. Like, yeah, obviously, you write stories and you put them out there and you hope they're going to resonate. And it's sort of like throwing a rock into a lake and seeing if you get any ripples back. You're just like, okay, I'll just throw this out there and see what happens. And so just hearing you having all of these questions and everything, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, haha, yeah, you'll find out.
Excellent. Yes. And I know what you mean. I feel that way because my book's like, I feel the pedal to bloop, and it just went down. I'm like, I'm waiting for the ripple, but I'm also not very good at advertising. Like I'm like a marketing like numbskull when it comes to that stuff. So like I when it comes to my book, like I talk to people that I know, but I'm still working on how do I get this like out there to more people so they can get that. So it's great that you have the audio series, that's a brilliant idea because it just builds anticipation. I mean, I'm an example of that. Like I should have thought of that. I should have put together some sort of audio thing for my book.
Oh, you can do it. Like I did. The audio drama producer that I work with, he did a workshop on Monday, and I went to it because I was like, well, I can always learn more. And he was like telling everything about how to produce it, how you can do it on a budget, like using actors, how to record it and everything, and doing it all at a distance as well because of COVID, and being able to actually work it. So you could definitely make one if you wanted to.
Yes. I'd have to sit down now and like think of like, how am I going to write this out and like put together like a script. And I already have like the microphone because I was thinking about doing some voice acting or something like that for a different thing. So I could always sort of hey, maybe who knows? Maybe I'll come up with something, even if it's just like a monologue or some sort of just like a narrative sort of thing or something.
Yeah. Well, he was saying like, because he's made loads and loads of stuff, and he's like, I've worked with writers who have done like, part narration, part speech, like moving in and out of both forms throughout and everything. I go very much for the episodic, just dialogue, like very kind of more trad Hitchhiker's Guide radio show version, but without the book narration, just very dialogue scene by scene. Other people do it differently, but yeah, you can definitely do it yourself. It's one of those things, and it doesn't have to cost very much to do it. And yeah, I'm in mine.
I was actually I thought I saw your name on the list, and I was trying to listen for your voice because I heard it from one of your interviews. So I listened to another podcast. We did an interview about and so I was like trying to like, is her voice in there? Which character is she? Like, so I'm gonna listen to it again. So I'll probably pick out your voice a little bit more. I know I've actually had more time to talk to hear your voice.
I'm the robot. I'm the Dex Industries voice. So when the bomb is firing, it's like, missile will hit in 5.
Yes.
4.
Okay, that's you.
3.
Yes.
Yeah. 2. My sister actually, she said she was listening to it, and she's like, it was chillingly calm. Just like,
Yes.
Missile has hit, missile has reached its destination. It's like,
Yes. I like that. There's this like again like this the communication of the event completely undercuts the level of devastation for the event. Even the computers just calm about this, and I almost wish there was a visual. I know that's hard to come by, but I wanted to see see like the range of this explosion.
well, the fact that the kids, when it actually hits, are watching it from satellite,
Yeah,
and they know that they're going to be able to see it from space.
yeah,
That in itself is pretty telling, and that's also another clue of the fact that Dex Industries knew that it was going to be big, because when Nathaniel was saying, I want the kids to be watching this, he didn't say, we'll set up a camera.
yes.
He said they'll be like, we'll just get them a feed from one of the satellites and they can watch it from satellite feed.
It's a good thing he wasn't like short-sighted. It was like, yeah, we're gonna have them like a couple miles away, like in a booth, watching as the explosion comes towards them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we underestimated this quite significantly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think it blows up. I think how big would Rhone be? Rhone is about the size of the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like, bye UK.
Exactly, that would be it. It was just like, boom, gone.
Oof. So I'm gonna segue because I saw online like you had a design. You liked Star Trek Voyager. And just looking at you now, I'm kind of getting like Captain Janeway vibes from like your hair and your glasses. And,
yes, I'm okay with that.
Yes. How much did Star Trek like inspire like your writing in sci-fi and the story?
Because I don't do space opera, so like it's like nothing's really in space. But I guess because of the seed planet thing, and I obviously Star Trek is huge. When you're growing up and everything. I mean, everybody pretty much has seen Star Trek and knows it. It's just so much part of our culture, and I think probably the idea of exploring and space being the final frontier, and knowing that the human race is just going to keep exploring in a way that like Star Wars doesn't, because Star Wars starts out a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So that sets it as history. Like the human race has done this, which is brilliant. I love that opening line. It's just genius. But the fact that in Star Trek we're exploring, and it's like, I guess in my head I'm thinking, okay, that final frontier, what have humans always done? We've pushed the frontier. So we would be looking to colonize new places and boldly go, and so I guess, like subliminally, probably Star Trek had quite a lot to do with my love of sci-fi and sort of ideas for that.
For me, it has. Like you said, you don't write space opera, and the one of the sci-fi novel, The Callus, I wrote, it isn't a space opera. I do hope to eventually write a space opera, and I already have like ideas floating in my head because I wanted to write Star Trek novels, but Simon Schuster had this thing where you could only write like actual characters, not create your own ship. So that kind of inspired me to go like, well, you know what? I'm going to create my own new story, my own fresh story, and create new aliens. So in the future, I do hope to go into that. But yeah, Star Trek and Star Wars were like my two primary franchises. Like I ate, slept, and breathed Star Trek for several years. Like I've probably seen all the episodes 2 or 3 times. Do you have a favorite series like Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Next Generation? Do you have a?
I guess because I just sort of caught them on the weekdays when they happened to be on, and I guess I saw quite a few of them out of order and stuff because it was very sort of terrestrial TV and they were on at different times and they were always being rerun as well. So you ended up catching the same episode 5 times but not seeing others. And I've since on Netflix and stuff I watched all of Voyager, for instance, recently. And I don't know if I've got a favorite. I think like all of them have got really strong points and have got weaker points. But I can't, because of that, I'm like, all of them have got their merits, and all of them have got their annoying characters, and all of them have got their brilliant characters. And some people say, oh yeah, but like this annoying character was slightly less annoying than all of the other annoying characters, so therefore this series is way better. And I'm like, oh, come on, please.
Neelix, one of the most annoying characters in Star Trek.
Yeah, but then in Deep Space Nine, it was the guys with the big ears. Who were those characters?
The Ferengi. Oh,
yes. They were annoying.
They were annoying, yes. They
yeah.
were like hilariously like. I was always invited by the Ferengi because I found it fascinating that you can like picturesque a culture so focused on profit that nothing else matters. No merit, integrity, nothing. They're just profit. Anything goes. Cheating is expected. You can cheat your family. You can cheat. And so it's annoying, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, like this is the culture here. Like,
it's so brazen.
yes.
They're raised on a Monopoly board or something. Like
they were. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's always nice to come across someone that's interested in similar things to me. And so, like my favorite used to be the Next Generation, but I'm kind of gravitating more towards Voyager and the next and Deep Space Nine because I kind of started to romanticize the Next Generation too much. I mean, it's still a classic, it's still spectacular, but looking at these other series, they're pretty good. So then I'm gonna say gaming. Because I wanted to get to that too, because I'm kind of like watch my time here and not get too focused on one thing. So, what do you game? I know you were talking about like The Sims with your friend. You were talking about some of the older games.
Yes.
What kind of platforms do you play?
Well, at the moment it's PS5 and Switch are the big ones, but then also PC. We do some PC gaming as well. Mm-hmm. So bit of a across the board, really. I'm a bit, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't limit myself in terms of that. I'm very lucky in that my spouse is also a gamer, and they are a software developer. So they're like the tech side of the relationship, and everything kind of just happens by magic for me, and it all just arrives, and then I can just play my games, which is the perfect arrangement.
That is the perfect arrangement, and being able to play together is it's brilliant. I want to be able to do that, but I have to find someone that actually has that kind of interest because I'll have friends and we'll hang out and we'll play and then we'll go our separate ways. And there can be like a gap between when we get to play with each other. So having a spouse who could like game with you, like have all that that sounds great. I'm primarily a PC guy.
Oh yeah.
But so when you two play together, like first person shooters, like massive multiplayer online games, like what do you play together?
We don't really first person shooter, but we do on PC it's Sins of Solar Empire, so normally. And so do you know Sins at all?
I've heard of it. I've heard of it because I used to play Solaris. And they feel like it's very similar to that game.
Yeah, it's sort of like, so you set up a map and you've got a sun and you've got the planets, and then maybe you've got more than one sun if you want to do that, jumping between solar systems, and you build up your empire, and then you go against, you like have wars and stuff and take over their planets. And it's very sort of strategic, and you have to do research and you have to upgrade and you have to do all of the things. It's basically, if you're playing it, it's like 8 hours of just staring at the screen and clicking furiously and like typing and just doing this for 8 hours and sort of saying, I'm going to send my people in, I need a wee, cover me, and like running to the bathroom and then coming back and covering each other, and you just don't eat. And so like when it's really intense, that can be a whole day gone.
Yes, I've had those games like that. Actually, I was going to say Stellaris is like that because you go and you get your resources and you're collecting things and you're building this empire. And you have these other empires, and they're like, the computer has it where all of a sudden they've got all these resources and they're like really stronger than you. They're like talking to you, like sending you insults.
Yeah,
Um,
really mean as well. Oh my god! Like I managed in Sins, I managed to pick the most sarcastic race, and
yes.
my spouse has this like has selected this race that's really like ethereal and everything. And when they give them a command, it's like, we shall do as you command. And then when I give my guys a command, they're like, don't rush me. What did I do to deserve this?
That's hilarious. Oh wow. But yeah, it's great that you can get those two to work together. And then of course you need those different personas because when you're going against other aliens, some
Yeah,
of them need the soft touch, some of them need like that brush, they rush, like that little rough
yeah.
edge. Where you're
And
just like,
different weapons as well, and different
yeah.
things that you can bring to the battle. You know, I like the fact that in that race you've got star bases that can fly around, they're not just stationary.
Huh.
So if someone comes into your solar system, your star base will actually go and hunt them down and
Ooh.
like and shoot them rather than just staying in one spot so people don't actually have to go near them. How good is that?
I like that. Yeah, a non-stationary station. I mean,
I mean,
it's
how different would DS9 have been if the space station could get about a bit?
yeah, it moved a little bit some of the episodes, but like it was a big production whenever they had to like shift the location of the space station. So yes, if they were able to like maneuver a little bit, yeah, that would have definitely made a difference.
Yeah,
Or just get out of Dodge if force came to shove,
yeah. Like when something's coming, just we'll just go around the other side of the planet. It'll be fine.
Yes, yes. When the Dominion, fleet was coming, and they're just like, oh crap, we're just gonna chill here and we're just stuck. Like we gotta fight
Yeah,
until we die or something. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas you could just go and hide. You know.
Yeah. So now I'm just kind of curious. How about your process? Because
Okay.
I have a different process when I'm writing. I'm very loose. Like I have a general idea of what I'm gonna write,
Uh-huh.
and I have a cue about what I'm gonna write. So I have this list of like 29 books that I'm going to eventually get to, where
Wow,
hopefully I can actually do it one day. I really do hope I can do it.
that's a lot. God,
It's
I'm
it's, a,
impressed.
it's an ambitious premise. I
Yeah.
mean, because I want to do multiple genres. I want to do fantasy, at least 7 books for a fantasy novel series, and then a space opera series. And
Nice,
then I
yeah.
like vampires and that kind of supernatural stories, so I want to do that. This and so it's just a matter of finding the time to do it. But I have like a queue laid out of like the stories I want to write, and then I just kind of like um, have a general layout of how I'm going to write the story, and then I kind of pants my way through it. Are you like a plotter? Do you have like every detail sorted out, like every story, or do you have like a list of like series you're gonna do, or you just kind of like just play up like off the seat of your pants?
Well, um, I'm sort of a middle ground person because I like with the Blood Road, that was always going to be a trilogy, and I always knew where it was going to end up. Um,
Yes,
and I do the thing like I sort of describe my processes, like in Lord of the Rings, the lighting of the beacons.
yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah.
love that scene.
So iconic scene. So I see where the next beacon is, but how I get there is a mystery. So I know like the big events.
Yeah, okay, I
And
got that. I'm similar. Yeah, okay, I got that.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I know where I'm going, but I just don't know how each one links. I know roughly how it links, but like it's a journey of discovery in that valley, as it were, in getting to that next point. But yeah, I mean, like the Blood Road, the reason I'm writing it as a trilogy, because so many writers, they say, like already published writers, they say, okay, so why are you writing the sequel if the first book hasn't been picked up by a publisher yet? Because a publisher might not pick it up. And if they do, they might not order you to make a sequel. So why are you writing it? And for me, I'm like, well, first off, I have to write it just for me. I have
yeah,
to do that. And secondly, because it's always been a trilogy in my mind and in my like the way the story pans out, it's always been a trilogy. And even if if it didn't get picked up by a publisher, I would self-publish. And if the first book got published and then they were like, no, we don't want to do the rest, I'd self-publish the rest. You know, it's got to be a trilogy. And yeah, I mean, as far as other books go, I do not have a list of 29 books, but I've got another idea that's sort of it's brewing in the back there. It's not ready yet, but it's brewing. And yeah, it's in the same universe, but
nice. Okay.
Planet. So I have plans. There's more than one planet in the universe, and I've got plans for both.
Yeah, that's actually another thing I was thinking. Like, this can't be the only seed ship that landed on. This can't be the only planet where Earth sent one off. There has to be multiple. So I'm kind of curious if you ever get to the point where you discover that there's 2 planets out there. There's 3 planets out there. It could be like a Vulcan / Romulan thing, where it's like you got these 2 dramatically different cultures, the distance from each other, and the humans from these different planets meet, and they're like clashing, and there's this, who knows, right? So this, I think you've set a platform. There's a lot of ground to cover. Yeah,
I mean, well, the spaceships are coming. I'm going to go back to that. There were 3 planets, but actually I wrote a short story in epic poem style because everyone needs a short story, a short sci-fi story written like an epic poem. And I wrote this, and actually I've never said this out loud before, so this is a reveal of a mediocre level, but that short story called Where Seeds Will Never Grow is the story of technically the first seed ship and what happened to it, and the people who designed the seed ships and what happens to them, and the planet where the Blood Road takes place and the audio dramas. That's the second seed planet, and then the third is also comes up in the trilogy. But yeah, so that short story tells the story of what happened there, and it's in the same universe. So nice.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent, brilliant. Well, again, like I said, I look forward. I'm gonna have to check out this, because I saw iambic pentameter. I briefly, I was glimpsing through your webpage, and I saw that. I'm just like, he wrote a poem. It's interesting. I have to go back and see this. So now that I know it's connected, I'll definitely have to read it now and see how that all goes.
Yeah, of course it's connected. This is my brain. Everything. Just I've got this universe, and everything's interconnected. It's nuts.
It's really funny you say that. I was talking to my friend Bill this morning, doing another one of these, and we were talking about Stephen King, and how he connects, all his stories. By the way, are you a Stephen King fan? Because it seems to be like a thing with writers. Either they love him or they hate him, or they like to make it like a point of not liking him, just so they can say they don't like it because he's famous. So what is your thought on Stephen King?
I've never actually read a Stephen King book.
Really?
I know. I did English literature at uni, and I've read an awful lot of things. He never came up on any of my reading lists. And since leaving uni, my reading has just been all over the place. And then when I started writing sci-fi, I had to really focus on reading current sci-fi to get into who's current, what's happening now, because all the agents want you to know that, and also it's just good practice. And as a result, I've just not got to him yet, but I know his stories, and I know, obviously they're made into movies, they're everywhere, you can't get away from Stephen King. I have to say, my favorite is still Carrie.
You see, I read the book, and I wasn't really impressed by Carrie. I was kind of shocked. I thought I was going to be more impressed by Carrie, but it wasn't. I can kind of see why it has so many rejections, just because of how he wrote those little articles, news stories within how he wrote it out. But I mean, it is a good story.
The movie is really good.
Yeah.
It's a classic. So I don't know how I'd feel about reading it either. Maybe I'd have the same kind of reaction as you. I just love how weird, how uncomfortable it is.
Oh yes.
And tension, all the way through is just like, yeah.
100% teen angst, like isolated kid, like I sometimes felt like Kerry in certain situations where I'm just like, man, if I was like a communist, these guys should just be ripped right now. Like, end of the line. Sorry, guys, gotta go. And boom. So, yeah, I definitely you can kind of empathize with Kerry's situation. So,
yeah,
I would say
it's,
if you were going to read Stephen King, a very popular series, which I was just thinking, talking to my friend, the Dark Tower series.
oh right, yeah,
7 books, worth, well, technically 8, but the primary 7 books. Great way to look into it. Once you get into it, you get sucked into it. But of course, I'm pretty sure any writer I've spoken to, we have a list of books we have to read. Like a
God, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness! Like I've actually bought more books than I've read. Like, so
Oh yeah, and they keep stacking up. I've got my to read pile on the side of my desk here, so that because this is where I would buy books.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at buying a book, then I've just always got it out the corner of my eye. Like, those are all the books that I've got to read.
Yes.
I really need this one because it's just going to be another one on top. And yeah, I think the TBR pile ever expanding is, I think it's an occupational hazard of writers though, right? I mean,
yeah. You're expected to buy books and just have like a little book fort set up.
Yeah, that just expands exponentially, like just keeps growing. Yeah.
Yes. What we really need, I was just thinking to myself, in 2020, as far as like reading, were you able to catch up? Because I know a lot of people, everything kind of shut down and everyone was kind of sitting still. I didn't get a chance to because I was just working all the time. But did you have any time to sit down or write or do anything? Or it's just busy for you?
Okay, well, 2020 for me was the time when everything kicked off with writing for me. So just before lockdown was when I was doing a big edit on the Blood Road, following some agent feedback. Then I started submitting it again to agents around when lockdown. I was submitting around when that kicked off. Got my agent. Was doing agent like edits. Started sending to publishers. In the meantime, did the audio drama and got that out. I was building up my audience and picking up pace there. And basically for the last year, I've just been working on not only my day job, which obviously happens, and that hasn't let up either because I can work from home. So I haven't missed a day of work through all of this either. I'm very lucky to be able to do that. But then, also just working all the time on all of this other stuff. I have to say, like, this last year has been the busiest year of my life so far. And I've not left my house.
That's amazing, because I mean I've had the busiest year, but I'm usually not at home because of work. So I that why I'm sleeping when I'm here. But so that's fascinating. That's, I guess we have the same situation almost. Except for you were, that's awesome that you didn't have to slow down or anything, or
everything sped up. Everything. Yeah. I guess it just goes to show. I mean, I always say, like, if I wasn't working full time in a day job, I would just work more on other things. And that is exactly what has happened. You know, like, I'm not commuting, but it just does mean that time just gets poured into other things. And as a result, I still have no time.
It's just reallocated.
Exactly. Yeah. And the TBR pile has not reduced in any way in the last year. Unfortunately. Has yours? I mean, have you managed to do much reading?
No, like I said, like, I actually, like, it's fun. I almost wished it, well, of course a lot of people say they wish it didn't happen, but I mean, it's this, I actually lost a lot of time. Like, I went from having time to read and having time to write to losing a large chunk of that time to read and write. So I'm actually transitioning back to having a life where I can actually do more reading and writing, and do, like, these podcasts and video, YouTube videos. And so I'm looking forward to being able to get replugged into the writing community and get replugged into my stories, and to actually work on all the stories I hope to write someday.
Well, you
So
got 29. You got to start working on them.
yeah, I don't want to retire from writing until like I'm like 90.
We never retire from writing. I
You
think
never retire from
every
writing.
writer has got to be halfway through a manuscript when they finally keel over, right? That's like the law.
Yes, yes. I want half of my manuscript to be buried with me.
Yeah.
I go.
Like that unfinished book that just
Yes, yes. But my hands are gonna be clenched on the pages.
yeah, exactly. I'll take it and I'll finish it on the other side, damn it.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, well, unfortunately, in our time, I've got to cut this short. But I love talking to you. It was great meeting you, Emily, and I hope we can do this again. And I
Yes.
definitely look forward to checking in on you and seeing how the Blood Road is, because I am going to be invested in seeing what happens with this planet. So I look forward to continuing this conversation and seeing how things proceed with these people, because I'm ready to see the repercussions of that explosion. So
Well, stay tuned. Next audio drama is coming out, and you'll hear when.
perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll share a link. And I look forward to this is gonna be good. This is gonna be great. I look forward to it. And thank you for having a conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. This has been a huge pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Until next time.
Until next time.
So there we have it. Another episode of a conversation with Antoine. Great time talking to Emily. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I talked about Star Trek a little too much because I'm just a big geek, and so whenever I meet someone who likes Star Trek, it's rare for me to have those conversations because I don't know that many people. So when I do meet someone, or come across someone I already know that likes it, I talk about it way too much. Same thing with Star Wars, sometimes with Marvel movies too. I just get excited about the stuff and the content, and I'm like, let's talk about this like forever. But anyway, it was great talking to Emily. Please, please, please check out her audio drama. Follow her on Twitter. Follow her on Twitter. Watch her website. Just check her out. She's awesome. She's got great content. Please appreciate her. www. What did I say? W 4 times. www.emilyinkpen.com. That's www.emilyinkpen.com. Emily's awesome. Please check her out. And also, thank you for joining me for an episode, The Conversation with Antoine.